There's Martin there again from FU Fishing and More. Just a little bit about the yabbies. It's just about, I think yabbies is just about a forgotten art, digging yabbies. But everyone's into lure fishing now. But if you're from the old school and a beginner and you'd like to catch fish, in my opinion, you can't go past live bait. But then again, I'm not a lure fisherman, so I won't get into that argument. But all you really need to get yourself started is your fishing rod and everything, of course. Bait bucket, put your yabbies in, and a yabby pump. One of these will probably set you back about $80, I think they are. And they come in about 3 different sizes. You can get a small one and the medium one, and then they got what they call a big willy. But put out by Wilson, and there's several different brands of them, but they all do the same job for you. But it'll probably be the best $8 investment that you'll make in your life, because as far as fishing goes, because you won't need to go buy a bait, and it's also half the fun of fishing, in my opinion, is collecting your live bait. And when it comes to, go for a walk first on your sandbank where you're going to dig your yabbies, and just have a look around, and you'll find where the holes are, where they dig. And when you're actually digging them, I'll show you in a minute. You go down, you got your layer of sand, mud, and when you break through, you feel like a water table underneath. When you get to that soft water table underneath, that's normally where the bulk of your yabbies will be. A lot of people just do 2 or 3 little shallow pumps on the top, and they wonder why they can't catch very many yabbies at all. Banks like this, you can come down here and you can dig your 100, 150, which is plenty for a full day's fishing, just about. And that should normally takes me about half an hour, 20 minutes to half an hour. But there's a prime example. That's probably an area where I'd start to dig. The amount of holes are there. And another secret is just have a look where the stingrays have been working. Where you find a lot of stingray holes, you'll also find that's where the yabbies are as well. They're not going to waste their time digging when the yabbies aren't there. In different times of the season, different times of the year, the yabbies will be in different places. Sometimes they're in close along the edge of the mangroves. Other times you'll find them out there along the edge of the sandbanks. And it's just a matter of try a few spots just to find out where they are. And while you're doing that, just keep your eye out for, on your sandbank where you are, little divots and that in the ground. And that'll show you whether the whiting have been feeding here or not. And yeah. Anyhow, I'll just put this, I'm going to have to put the camera on my chest so I can show you a bit about this. Successful little hole there. We just started to dig them there. There's 4 just in one pump. Put them in and keep going. There's another 4 in that lot. Certain times of the year, especially after a lot of fresh rain, they're a little bit hard to find. They're just down there deeper. That's where the longer pump comes in handy. One. We have 5, 6. What I find best is if you put the pump down, about half a pump, pull the handle back, take it out, and the rest, next pump, go right down until you get that soft slurry. That's it. Halfway, clean the hole out, and you go right down to the next pump. Full length of your pump, and they're in that watery section underneath. If you don't break through into that soft watery section, you won't get many yabbies at all. You're better off finding another spot on the bank where you can. Pretty well 4 sandbanks here in the Bribey Passage have got yabbies on them. Just got to check and see, find your own little favourite spot. It doesn't take long to get enough bait. You get a good feed of fish. Also, I might have forgot to say, it's good exercise as well. Give you a good cardiovascular workout, or whatever you want to call it. There, couldn't get down to that water table on that second pump. Not much in there. And anyhow, I'll dig a few more of these, and then might take the rod and go for a walk, and just to see. It's a little bit earlier in the season yet for the whiting to be down here, but they could be down. But we'll go and see. Might be a few flathead along there. Also, it's a good idea if you come for a walk down along your yabby bank as the tide's coming in, and just see what time of day it is that you can still get onto the bank and get yabbies, and then go back and have a look on a site that I go into all the time, is Decky, and it'll give you, for your area, the height of the tide at that particular time of the day that you were there, when the banks were just covering, which, by the way, is the best time to dig them. You're getting heaps more then as the tide's coming in. And as it goes out, they go deep. As the tide comes in, they come up towards the surface. Also, you can preserve these yabbies. I preserve them with metho and cochineal, and we'll see how many we've got left after we have a bit of a fish, and I may even show you that as well. But it's real handy, because I've done experiments now where I've used live bait on one rod, preserved yabbies on another, and the 3 times or twice that I've done it, they've outfished, the preserved ones have outfished the live ones. It's just a matter of, after you do them in the metho and cochineal, you dry them off and put them in a plastic container, spray them with a little bit of olive oil, the stuff you use in your fry pan, non-stick stuff you put in your fry pan to cook with, and you put them in the freezer, and I guarantee 12 months time you can still take them out and they're perfectly good. And the cochineal in the metho just keeps them nice pink colour, and you can even take them out, you can leave them out all day in the boat, bring them home, put them back in the freezer, and they're still good to use again. They're still nice and firm. That's one thing putting them in the metho does, it toughens them up a little bit, and they stay on the hook a little bit better. When you're looking for your flathead or your whiting, mainly, look where the gutters like this, where the sandbanks and weed beds drain off. And out the mouth of those, fish the mouth of those, that's where you're going to find your whiting and your flathead. Your flathead is going to be sitting there waiting in ambush, and your whiting are going to be on the edge of the bank waiting to come back up on the sandbank as soon as the tide starts coming back in this gutter. The method I use of putting these yabbies on the hook, most people go through the backside there and come up and they bring the hook out there, which I find whiting especially will smash the back of this head here and they won't come back for the tail. But you start your hook down the bottom end there and thread it right up through the body, take it right up until you can just feel the point come out between the eyes there. And I always take claws off, that's a preference. I reckon it just gives the fish something to grab to pull the yabby off the hook on you. And that's the way I've always put them on all my life and had great success with them doing that way. I've tried the other way and I miss fish. Get out. Once you've got your yabbies and you've given them a good rinse in fresh water, put them in a strainer. If you don't want to use them the same day, which if you're going to use them the same day, just put them in an esky dry with an ice brick in there with them or something like that, just to keep them, and they'll keep you can keep them up to 48 hours like that. But if you're not using them for the next day or so, go through, sort out the dead ones, only put healthy ones in. Put a few drops of cochineal in a container, which is just ordinary food colouring, red. It just helps them keep the colour, and just add metho. And it's just a matter of putting your yabbies in there. And if you're a freshwater fisherman and use yabbies, saltwater yabbies, which I do quite regularly for certain times of the year, yellowbelly just love them. Being preserved like this, they're perfectly legal. But if they're fresh yabbies, you're not supposed to use them in impoundments and freshwater. But that's all there is to it. Yes, metho, cochineal. Put your yabbies in, make sure they're covered with the metho. I need a little bit more in there, but I think I'll get some. And then just put it in the fridge for anything up to a day, 2 days, doesn't matter really. And a couple of days time I'll take these out of the fridge and I'll show you the last process, which is just putting them into putting that wad and drying them on paper towel. And give them a spray with your olive oil or canola oil, it doesn't really matter, any of those cooking oils, and just a light spray, doesn't have to be heavy, and then put them in plastic containers, put them in the freezer, and you've got bait whenever you want it.